Here at this plenary session, we will have those participants who would be keen to talk to other community leads, those who already have a strategy, such a unique opportunity for temporary occupied territories and war-adjusted communities. There is a will, there is a way. The Ministry of Territorial Communities is going to issue a new methodology for strategic planning for those particular types of communities. And we have a unique possibility today, now with Vitaly Prochenko, representative of the Ministry of Territorial Development, to separate ourselves and to have a very cozy discussion on how to make strategies efficient, a very open dialogue with the specialist on strategic planning who owns that process in the ministry. My colleague Vladislav raising his hand, and those who are temporary occupied territories or war-adjusted areas. Your room would be room number 2, and he will bring you. Just give 2 more minutes. Those who are joining us, if you are from war-adjusted areas or occupied areas, you have possibility to talk to the Ministry of Regional Development in a separate room. Great. Those others who stay, you keep your crowd in the corridor and we'll continue. So as we spoke before, we will transfer to the theory of developing your strategy step by step. We will talk about what are the benefits, what the strategy can do for you. We have representatives from different communities who can share their experience on what strategy provided them with, because they already have those strategies and they use those strategies. So I think Alexander, Vlad is looking for you somewhere there. But Alexander will be back and it would be an interesting talk. So please keep that in mind. One more time, if you are here from occupied territories or war-adjacent areas, there is a separate session. No, you stay here, you have your strategy. So I would encourage you to reconsider your participation. Case closed. Then I would invite to a panel, how do I call them? Success story owners. Oksana Suprun, the lead of Savinskaya military administration. Oleg Volsky, head of Zhovkwa territorial community. Mykola Riznik, head of Opishnya village territorial community, and Vladimir Shmatko, head of Chortkiv town territorial community. Chortkivska, apologies. 1,500 communities. I have not managed all the stresses. We visited 12 regions so far out of 25 with Crimea. So, the way I called you, you have briefs and my colleagues would help you to put them on screen. So let's start with you one by one and we'll proceed accordingly. Final thing I would like to say, look, these are the people who already done something and they benefited from that. So I encourage you to raise hands, ask questions. We are here to talk more than just to listen one way. So you would better comprehend the case. So the floor is yours. Thank you. Thank you in return. And thank you to be the first speaker today. And we spoke a lot about not standard approaches, not standard communities. And we understand that 1,469 communities, these are 1,469 different stories. So we're speaking about a development strategy for Savinskaya village territorial community, which was under occupation for 6 months. 3 months after the liberation, the military administration was established. I was not elected and selected. I was nominated by the presidential administration, and that's the first challenge, where you have to work in a community to which you do not belong, but you have to demonstrate the effective management, not only in terms of reconstruction, but also in terms of development. The first understanding on the need of a strategy emerged in January 2023, 4 months after the occupation, 3 months of the military administration running. There was an understanding we have a southern object destroyed, we have destroyed critical infrastructure, we have no members of parliament, we have no executive committee, and we do not have representatives of executive branch, but we have to work first and foremost that we started to structure on paper those damaged objects and to think what should we do with it. We realized that we should not restore completely damaged schools or educational institutions. We have to rethink our approach to educational system. Same referred to remote clinical facilities where we lost the most critical thing, human capital and doctors at the local spots. We started to analyze what should we do and review the critical life support systems, water provision systems, and we realized that we had to attract funds that not only to restore to a pre-war standard, but to do it to a new modern standards. So February-March 2023, that was a restoration plan that restructured everything we have to do. In early 24, we engaged Alinea International Search Project, according to which we were developing a strategy and we set the priorities to us, what to do and how we do that. So it's not only about restoration, but it's also about community development. Here on this slide, the structuring, setting priorities, things that were put in written chaotically on separated pieces of paper, we put in structure to make it clear what is needed for a small war-adjusted community, 18 villages and towns, some 2,000 of population, and 2 completely erased from the earth settlements. So we realized that we have to set priorities and find our priority development vectors. So we restructured, we set priorities, and we started to work on that. And I have to mention the budget efficiency. That document became our planning foundation when we started our engagement on public investments. We were clear that our strategy envisages that all. So from the strategy to the real investments, we produced in a structured way all our public investment initiatives. Not that many, we have far more project ideas than running projects as such, but understanding that from the remote settlement staying on our community up to the front line, up to the active war zone, it's 10 and 2 kilometers. A number of public investments is not realistic. But nevertheless, we say community is living, community is alive, and we have to restore ourselves today, because if we would not do that today, it would be damaged even more in years, and we will need far more funds. There is no need in restoring everything, because that Soviet heritage should not be restored completely. It has to be rethought and restored in a new way. We started to work on a strategy, on a comprehensive restoration plan jointly with international partners, with international organizations who helped us in drafting strategy and also with the initial implementation of it. And speaking today that the resource magnet, that was exactly our strategy. And 2 figures to mention, figures from 2026. Strategy was signed in 2025 and endorsed, uh, referring to a strategy we attracted 25 million hryvnia. These were national investments. We built the underground school for 1,400 square meters for 400 individuals. The school runs in a mixed format and provides educational function for community, and more than 100 million hryvnia, 103 in 2025, was attracted from international donors and partners for several projects implementation. In 2026, according to public investments, we attracted 47 million hryvnia. That's what already been included into our work plan and already been confirmed funding, and the tender procurements is on the way to implement those projects, and we also expect that few more projects would be supported, already included in the public investment plan, and 8 million hryvnia that directly relates to the development strategy and projects covered by the strategy. That's up till May 2026. So, the most critical is to understand what is needed to restore the community and to develop the community. The development, this is the first and foremost focus, and that's where the public investments confirms that to us. It's been mentioned a lot who should do where and what. Little village communities, I have the whole range of employees, and there are 42 of them, starting from a driver up to a cleaner. Educational branch 2, land branch 1, social economical development and investment and agriculture 1 person. We don't have working hands in sufficient amount, but every individual received training on project manager. Everyone became a project manager and attracts funding. Center for providing administrative services runs the project on solar panel, street lights. Educational branch makes the project for collecting the hard waste, and so on and so forth. Don't look for problems, look the solutions. It's all in our minds, it's all in our hands, and it's all in our hearts. If we see the development opportunity, if we are willing to confirm that this territory is worth to be developed, as soon as we see the potential for development, we have to attribute our efforts. Having 32 millions of own revenues in the community, last year I just mentioned, we provided support to the armed forces for 25 million, but we realized that we have to be developed. That's why we attract external funding to demonstrate that this territory is Ukraine. So the belief in future, the belief in your own force and strength, and don't stop for any step. Thank you. Thank you, dear Oksana. Are there any questions to Oksana? You'll get a mic in a second. We are colleagues. You say you have the Center of Administrative Services running the projects. When they have time, they have to do their own core function. So no offense, maybe your admin service has less workload. Well, are we going to argue now with figures and days? How many requests your center process per day? I don't know per day. And I will tell mine, 65 requests for back office per day. 2 staffers. So when there is a time come to do the project, in a free, non-working time, 24/7, the village council works. We have no day offs, and we don't have the working hours from 8 till 5. And as soon as everyone has an understanding that they are here not according to the terms of reference, but he or she is a citizen interested in developing their community because that's the streets they work, that's their kids to enjoy the time on the playground. These people are engaged in doing the projects. But yes, that's the problem in the minds. There is a will, there is a way. Thank you. Any more questions? Then the floor to Oleg Volsky, Zhovkva, Local Council. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Good afternoon, friends, colleagues. Before starting my brief, I would like to thank to Oksana. She motivates enormously, and her community is quite motivating. We have completely different situation. We are the western part of Ukraine. We are the bordering territory with Poland, and in her case, she is the community that has to have a special attention and where priorities should be directed at. And it's nice to have such efficient managers in frontline adjusted communities. I've been there for many times and I'm fully aware of what's going on here. I will highlight some experiences of my community, and I said that's the bordering community, 30 kilometers from Polish border and 20 kilometers from Lviv, 35,000 population in our community. That's a historical community, have number of architectural sightseeings and facilities, historical heritage, but also we have 49 villages, so quite a large territory that runs for dozens of kilometers. And the strategy for development, that was the powerful tool that allows us not to attract investments, not only utilize those, but also to implement a number of projects for social and economic development, which are critical for any community. And Zhovkva community, due to the development strategy endorsed in 2023, we're also grateful to European Council office who supported us in developing our strategy. Way before that, probably we spent some time, a year time, to develop that strategy. We engaged experts. There were grant funding from European Union paying for experts. There was Alexander Salantai. He was one of the team leads who came, who visited us and helped us in drafting our development strategy and helped us to specify the key directions and our priorities that are valid till now. There would be some minor adjustments, but in some later time. So it's very critical for those who have not developed your strategies, so you would be able to find the professional experts who would be helping you in setting up your priorities and identifying your future steps, because this is not a strategy for a day or two, that's a strategy for many years ahead, and that would be your guidance for later on. So, in fact, what is our strategy about the projects that we are running? And these are also the funding from European Union. These are also the national budget funding, the regional budget. We constantly attract funding from different sources for different types of projects. Social dimension, critical infrastructure, education, barrier-less approach. We reconstruct the water supply systems. The new water pipe is going to be constructed, 22 million hryvnia, 20 million allocated by the program, the Restore Ukraine. That's our priority included in our strategy. The other project submitted to European Development Bank, undergoing the endorsement, reconstruction and technical update of polluted waters purification. So our cleaning facilities that require modernization and upgrade, we are going to attract funding with some gratis period from European Bank. A lot has been said about attraction of money. If it is not anticipated in your strategy, that would be challenging for you to attract funding from international partners, from national banks, or from any other organizations. Also, in the process of implementation, we have two more projects on thermal modernization, the capital reconstruction of administrative housing, a city council, and also the capital reconstruction and modernization of our school, one of the biggest in the community, more than 1,000 pupils. Also fundings from European Reconstruction and Development Bank, which we attracted last year. That was a bank loan, some 66 million hryvnia overall, and the capital constructions and thermal modernization is anticipated for those objects which are most energy consuming in a community. So that's the energy focus, same as our strategy and our document base its role in that. Many other projects that we implement, a number of different projects that are soft projects, others that would be a capital construction, refurbishment. I'm not going to dwell much on that. You are all professionals. You know more than anyone. That's what you deal daily as the community representatives, as community leads. So, considering our strategy, one of the key elements here is international cooperation, and I would like to draw attention to that point. I understand that the frontline adjusted communities, north, south, east, even center, it's much more difficult to interact with international partners. It's easier to us, but we're happy to share our experience with other communities because we have a very sound outcomes of interaction with international partners. We have several cities, brotherhoods, and we have several agreements signed, and we see that international cooperation, international support, that's one of the key directions where our community is going to be focused at for several years. That's a constant update of the pool of vehicles, that's the buses, that's the tractors, a number of utility vehicles, power generators. For instance, none of power generators for critical infrastructure being purchased by the national funding. On power generators were supplied by European Union countries, tens of millions of hryvnia, and in comparison to other support projects, German, French, Belgium, Polish, that's probably dozens of millions of euros. And here in that direction we interact very actively, so I encourage you to be active internationally and put that direction of cooperation in your respective strategies, because there are projects like Interact very actively working for the sake of Ukrainian communities, and international communities should be reflected in their strategies, and it would be easier to supply their bids because Europeans pay attention to that, and colleagues had mentioned that. So a bit of practical case that I would like to share with you and to encourage those who were not doing their strategies, yes, please do so. Those who are going to amend your strategies, please polish that accordingly and put required adjustments so your communities would clearly state directions for development to which you're going to stick in upcoming years, and you as the head of the communities to set those objectives and those objectives to be reflected in your strategies. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions in the room? Good afternoon. Vyshenska community from Zhytomyr region. In terms of international cooperation, the practical algorithm, what should we start with in order to introduce and set up those relations? Is it personal relations or any communities or clubs to join? Well, in fact, every brother city or sister city that we have, that was individual case, individual practice. Somewhere where we knew someone from the local council. We have Wolfsburg city in Germany, Szowkwa community 35,000, and Wolfsburg have 300,000, a big factory, Volkswagen, and you can imagine what is to have Volkswagen factory. So 2 years ago we set up brother relations, and I had the pleasure to meet a member of the city council who sits in the council for a long time. And I said, what if we would sign an agreement? I understand we're a small town, you're a big town, we don't have the world manufacturers, but let's try. And he said, I'll talk to a mayor. He talked to a mayor. I've sent a letter. They replied that yes, it's interesting. We invited them to visit us. They invited us to visit them. We exchanged some experience. We met them nicely. They met us. And we agreed. So it took about a year from some formal and informal engagement, and we signed an agreement, and we became towns in brothers. And a lot of support that they provide to us, to our front line, and also ambulances, jeeps, and they support our hospital, quite a number of equipment. And there were cases that someone read about our town. We have a friendship in Belgium. Their mayor read some historical places in Ukraine, and he enjoyed the case of our town. So he sent us a letter. There was a case, I was sitting in my office, and someone comes, a foreigner, a Belgian, and a man came and said, I would like to talk to you. I'm a mayor of a town in Belgium. I said, oh wow, that's how cooperation starts, informal domain. If that was a purposeful effort, you have to send letters to see similarities, maybe similar history, maybe international companies available in your community who may have some relations with their hometowns or home states. Maybe you know somewhere ambassadors or consulars who are active in international cooperation. Maybe that would be the channel to work through. Maybe you can check which community or which town is very alike to yours. Send them letters, they may respond. Talk to mayors, talk to those who make decisions, local elected personnel, and step by step you will get there. But probably the most and the best advice that I can give you, don't be afraid to talk to them. Don't be afraid to be at the same level to them. Don't be afraid to visit them or call them and find the contact. And it is a difficult job, but it brings its benefits. And when the new utility vehicles been supplied to you for thousands euros, new power generators for 100,000 euros, when some equipment been shipped to you within a year or two or three, but it will start working with you.
We have a brotherly city. Some 20 years ago, Zholkivska district council signed an agreement with that, and when the war started, they said we as a city we're ready to work as a city, and more than 60 cars brought together with Lithuanians, with the mayor and his team, and that's how it works. Right, thank you. Are there any more questions? Then the head of Pishnyansk Territorial Community, Mykola Riznik. Hello, dear friends. You are asking about the brotherly cities. I think all the generators and tractors have been collected in Chertkiv and Zhovkva. So I am on the Pishnyanska Gromada in Poltava, and as was rightfully said, from the center of Ukraine, closer to the east, it's harder to have brotherly cities. Many countries of Interact are closed for us, but still we are working somehow. And when we talk about strategy, you know the saying, the captain who doesn't know where he goes doesn't care which way the wind blows. So the strategy is where we're going, where we're heading, and what are we living as in heritage. Who doesn't have strategy? So you see, we were thinking a long time, and then we were told to have a strategy by the end of the year, and we did it quickly. So there are about 2 communities that are still thinking. We also designed the strategy for 2 years, and then we quickly approved it. So I'm the only one who doesn't have a strategy, and Oleg said that we need to engage experts, and that's the right thing to do because we're looking from the outside. but nobody but you can design the strategy as good. So don't make mistake that we did and many other communities, which they gave to the experts, and that's the wrong thing to do because you have a better understanding of your areas. And when we attract the experts from London, he hadn't heard anything about our ceramics, and we have to include it in the strategy because that's about money. And when we were told if you don't have strategy, you won't have money, then we did it quickly. You probably will do the same. So what I want to recommend to those who are now designing a strategy, every project, accessibility should be everywhere in your project. Accessibility to be relevant. You can't have money for infrastructure projects if you have old inaccessible things. And when we shaped our portfolio, many communities have made a lot of mistakes because they only one priority selected. So when education is the only one priority, you can't get other things funding. So we selected 5 or 6 priorities, a little bit by a little bit, and that was a winning bet because now we can have. So all our strategies are dynamic. Other than the strategy we designed, so we've signed memorandum with Habitat. So by 2027, we will replace the recovery plan for strategy. So because it's hard to plan ahead, even half a year. So we were talking about the money, state money, international money. We're also applying for different things, but strategy is your internal resource, which you either accumulate or redirect properly. So Opyszczanka, the main revenues are revenue tax and gas rentals. Because if you don't have strategy, you can count that you will live all your life through gas. But when they started bombing our gas production companies and rental dropped down, so we started thinking, how do we live if there's no gas, if there's no revenue tax from workers of the mining industry? And this is where you need a strategy, where alternative revenues are coming from tourism. And when we started moving that way, it's not that big of a money. In 2025, it's only 300,000 hryvnias of tourists, but we had 0. But strategically, we know that we are no longer addicted to gas, so to say, and we're moving toward tourism. What does it mean in the strategy? Because everybody talks about industrial parks, it's such a great thing, a lot of people relocate, but if we write in a strategy that we're mostly going to tourism, is this going to work if we have bigger production? And that's why you need a strategy where we would understand that in Opyszczanska Gromada there will be no industrial park. We don't have railway, and the strategy has that. Why we need that? Because, like for instance, I want the projects that we're working, Opyszczanska Artil, Opyszczania Agro, the youth programs. We want them to continue working without us because elections, policies, the teams exchange. But when there is a good project, when it's written in institutional documents, then regardless of who is the head of your community, it can move. Not one leader goes that way, another leader goes the other way. Because you don't need a leader that is ruling you like 20 years, but you need documents that maintain the strategy. So we remember Salantai, Why you need experts? Because they help you to get out of your bubble. So we were dreaming of some big investor coming to us, and we had 4 ceramic factories. Then they were destroyed, and now there's 0. But we are still the capital of Ukrainian ceramics. Solomtai came over and said, "What are you dreaming?" We are dreaming of ceramic factory. Some investor comes in and he says, "Why do you need another leader or a boss? He will open the factory and installs his own deputies and oh." And he says, "Create guilds." You mean, what do you mean? One of you will be a leader of ceramics, another will be selling this, yet another one will be doing exhibitions, and altogether you build an economy, local economy. So, we can do that. So we created like Territorial, which is to retain our craftsmanship on ceramics, but we didn't expect to be such a hype for all Ukrainian ceramics and international partners. All kinds of people are ordering ceramics, so we're booked 3 months ahead for ceramics, exclusive things. And so today it says here revenue, so 3 million hryvnias they received the first 3 year 1 million, but they were not creating it for profit. They were retaining craftsmanship, artisans. In 2 years, they will be economically viable. They will be generating profit, and they are in our strategy. They are the magnet for economy that is expected to develop after we're gone. So it's important. So accessibility, we're one of the few communities, and maybe the smallest community, a village community that is part of the presidential accessible movement. So we were given 94.6 million hryvnia to do this project, but it was in August, so only 48 million were used, the rest was returned. And it's also about strategy, where accessibility was there and all of our projects built through Dream. But anyway, that's your strategy. Your projects have to be comprehensive, because accessible route, if you think it's just walkways, it's not. It's all of the buildings that stand there. Kindergartens, apothecaries, shops, everything. So those 22 facilities, 5 of them completed. The rest are half maybe. And now we're again thinking we're waiting for additional funding through Dream. So, but we've done equally difficult tasks. So EEB, you've participated in voting. So we were promised 14 million to refurbish the schools. We'll see. But what I would recommend from my own experience, first of all, in all of your projects, accessibility, energy efficiency, alternative sources, and in Poltava region, if you know, last winter, there was the least electricity, like 2 hours a day maybe. But you can't have a generator, so you need to build solar for everyone. So 80% are now in solar, water supply as well. So write it in the strategy, so that your community is an island of that. And why do you need a strategy? Each community has its own, let's say, a magnet. If you don't have it, invent it or find it. We're all different in individual ways, and when we'll be on the international level, in the industrial park, Artil, artisan workshops, then we will be strong and partners for European Union. So we design strategy. So, Mikola, are there questions? You talk about solar. Like they produce electricity 5 months. What about 7 other months? What if it in your case? So, like snow, they don't produce so much electricity as you need. 2 kilowatts instead of 30. What do you do then? Do you have a solar power station? Only my personal. Thanks for the question. I also believed in that myth that only they work half a year. If there wasn't that 20% of winter, we wouldn't have survived that winter. Because we have some facilities that only use electricity, like radio, only solar power, no gas, nothing. And so we took a tower and it cleaned snow, so the generation continued. So 2 weeks, batteries recharge, and so if it's a water well, we put 20 kilowatts. There should be more pump for 8 kilowatt water pump. 2 hours works on the battery, then water and pump, and then 2 hours nothing. But still, it improved the work. So it's a myth, because at home we have solar panels that we use with kids. So put it on the land, not on the roof. So next stage will be wind energy, but it's more expensive. But in the situation where we are, to see through diesel, solar panel, wind. So cogeneration, we're a small city, no reason for that. So everybody is recommended. So when you have 2 hours electricity per day, this is a rescue, really. It's not as effective as you want it to be, but it's a rescue. So solar power station with inverter and battery. Without the battery, it's not working, really. I support Mykola, and same story where electricity comes from Kupiansk. We all understand what kind of city. It's solar power that provided water supply through the winter period. So a proper set of batteries and inverters, we have water supply throughout the winter. So there are questions? Then we pass the floor to Chertkiv city mayor Volodymyr Shmatko. So thank you, organizers. And everybody's pretty tired. There's a lot of information. So we are supporting each other, dear mayors. We didn't leave the country. Why? Why did we not immigrate? We have responsibility. Because we were elected. We are elected. I've been 11 years as mayor, in 20 years in local self-governance. Each of us understand when people delegate managing public funds to the team, they expect effective use of that money. Because we were not employed. I am mayor. I am not an employee. I don't work for salary. Local self-governance is service. Too bad the big governmental people are no longer here. They're great people who... there's a big country and it's a big war. 5 years, 12 years in general war, so... but we have to survive all together with the parliament, with the people who stayed, and in the strategy to plan to get Ukrainians back to community. And we can't think only about employment and salary. So there are those who survived, there are people with disabilities, so strategy should encompass everyone, not only those who are in the majority. So about Short Kiev. Short Kiev is a city 500 years, celebrated 500 years in 2022. So 37,000 people, 7 villages, Short Kiev. It's our peculiarity. We have a small, compact community, and that's what we wanted, and we achieved that. And now we say that we have to fight to get people back to Short Kiev. The key thing for which is our vision is that people are in the community. There are children born and positive migration to us. We, as from small towns, we lose to whom? To big cities. We understand what's the situation, as Oksana described, or sometimes we only feel and understand, but small towns lose to big cities. Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Ternopil, Kiev, Odessa, etc. And it's hard for us to build a strategy with different results. Everybody wants roads, water supply, wastewater supply, housing built, like we see examples in Europe, but when every one of you wants in Ukraine to have a Poland, have to remember a simple, important thing. Over the latest 300 years, we've been a colony, not an empire. And you cannot compare Ukraine to Poland because of this different history. All the big countries that we are aiming towards, they were built by colonies. Most of them are settler colonial projects. So we have a lot of things that we possess, but we need to be able to use those opportunities. 2016, 15, I started working as a mayor of Short Kiev. For the first thing we did, without even knowing what the strategy is, without having any statute documents, just a young team. I was 28 years. I returned from the front line. I had a lot of energy, emotion. Give me a point to apply my talents. And the first thing we did, we analyzed and we saw how much energy we consume. That's the basic thing for any strategy. How much are you spending? How much money are you spending to consume energy in every way? Electricity, heat, water, supply, etc., etc. When we realized that it's a lot, how did we understand? We just divided by the amount of people, facilities, calculated the budget. So we went through splitting the strategy of the future strategy into energy efficiency and other things. So now it's a list of documents that are adopted. These documents that we designed with the team that gave us the results that you will see further on the next slide. But when we calculated the energy, we realized that water supply will not survive. We cannot raise tariffs endlessly, although we raised the tariff twice during the big war. Now 1 cubic meter for water costs 80 hryvnias, and we'll be raising even higher. And I'm the mayor who's not afraid of criticisms. Municipal transport for cash, 30 hryvnia within the city. We raised 3 weeks ago. Now it's 30 hryvnia. But you can't be a populist. You can't compensate from the budget what you shouldn't be compensating. 2 months ago, we liquidated like public management for residential houses. Now it's condominiums. The latest 40 houses, no more public management. The populism should be done with only market relations. Hear me out. Ukraine is too poor to play with social preferences. We have to learn to consume less energy and create projects. We didn't save, we earned. So all of the projects that you did, we've attracted by this time. And it's not about writing the ministry to Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Regional Development. It's about strategic steps. Strategy, our first designed and approved strategy was in 2019 using grants, using Polish brotherly city Bashtanka and Churtkiv. And the Polish city. So we won the grant, but it was a small result of energy efficiency projects, and we started attracting external resources to make our dream come true, to have less consumption. So the strategy up to 2050, we have the goal to update strategies, regional and national, but in 2050 we have to arrive 100% to renewable sources. We'll do everything to only consume fossil fuels. Solar Chortkiv is the project. Now we have 16 solar stations. It's a utility station, so all these stations are not bought from the budget. There are only 2 on the state program. All the rest is international partners and grant. When you talk about partnership with cities, we don't talk about humanitarian systems. Not only humanitarian systems. We have 14 international partnerships, but each of them asked us, what's your strategy of development? And when we said, in the strategy, we have decreased consumption of energy, the German government started giving us money to reduce energy consumption. When we said we need clean water and less losses from water supply, the French partners helped us, and then Sweden, we worked with education for adults. There's University of Public Education 65 plus, and those are elderly people whose children are abroad. They are now students and they learn 15 professions, but that's an example completely built on Swedish model. The city of Karlskrona also shared their experience, and we won the grant with them from ISLD program. Now this program is built in Chortkiv, and May 29th we have another graduation, 200 students. They're 65 plus, and a lot of them are those who came from the east and south of Ukraine. So each part of the strategy that was put into partner cities, they found themselves. Like another French city, they said, we want to help the world and your children to go to school. Now partnership, our communities cooperate through schools. Canadian city, American Lexington educational project with Future Academic Lyceum. Now we're talking about, I support the colleague, heads of communities. Policies and politics change, but partnerships have to survive. We're talking about industrial park. You know how industrial park appeared in Chortkiv back then in 2016 or 2015? A Czech economist, Dusan Kulka, and he told me, a young mayor, he said, Vladimir, you have 90 hectares of land. Do not give it for construction or auction for agriculture. Make an industrial park of this, because that's the growth spot that will save your city from degradation. In 2016, he said this. In 2019, we so in 2025. So in 5 years, each year we invest into industrial park millions of hryvnia in water waste, electricity grids, water supply, gas supply. I've been criticized. They say there's no roads. What are you buying? What are you building the park? We don't have jobs. But they don't understand what is industrial park.
And I have to explain in my fingers what is industrial park. And now when they say construction, they understand. For 7 years now, we are still on the way to our objective. Strategy is not a capital construction, it's not retention and maintenance. You have to dream big but act small, and then you can compete for people. If we do not create jobs, and that's industrial park about jobs and relocation, unfortunately relocation, but hopefully to Chortkiv, not to Poland, not to Ivano-Frankivsk or Lviv. The other thing to mention, do everything possible to attract people. No people, we would have only jobs for a community citizen. I wish you to find your own trick, to develop it, to find your peculiarities and attract money. And what is the most important here in the strategy, for ourselves, the leads of community, to believe in the success of the strategy, and then result will come. Thank you. Thank you, dear Vladimir. Can we bring back the slide? You see, you will receive all the briefs, no worries here. The final one, the last one. Sunny Chortkiv. There is a case in one of our trainings called the Sunny Community, so here is a Sunny Chortkiv. Solar Chortkiv, whatever you call it. Well, thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, we'll keep our heads of communities with us. You can enjoy coffees with them. You can ask more about partners. Please share your information. Keep your reliable stakeholders with you. No more questions? Oh, there is a question. Thank you. You saved our reputation. Solar power plant. Is it only for consumption, or you sell externally, or is it internal consumption for your own needs? In a water supply utility company, we introduced 3 power plants, 340 kilowatts, 100, 120, 120, 2 water pipes for drinking water and 1 for polluted water. There is the external, but those pennies that we receive, we need a storage facility, and we don't have money for a storage facility yet. All other power plants with the storage facilities. You see, it's not about security for energy. Look for saved figures, and keeping in mind the trend of increasing prices for electric community. People in community do not understand that. You can check my Facebook. 15 solar station installed, and people put their comments. Madness. Where all these power plants? We had power cuts in winter. They don't read that these are for schools, for kindergartens. People more concerned about their homes. Why don't we have the road works? And I say, we have not increased prices, or we try to match the tariffs. They have their tariffs fixed. They have 4 hryvnia kilowatt. Unfortunately, I know So you said 10, 30 kopecks per kilowatt. Yes. Super. Any more questions, Oksana? So my question is the following one. How you prepared your projects? Have you engaged external experts or you developed your internal capacity of your team to draft and implement projects? Let my colleagues reply. We have 3 individuals in international cooperation and promotion branch doing the grant writing. We have 3 more individuals in energy branch responsible for energy efficiency. We found those, one from Mykolaiv, other came from other projects, and we do power plants on our own. Every branch, every unit has their respective project area, so I asked everyone where you got money from. Just spend time in office, it's not the way. I will add here in Zhovkva City Council, we created a community company, the Institute for Community Development, chief and 2 project managers. In fact, there are 2 out of 3 only, but that's the entity that is doing the grant writing, grant searching. They English speaking, they have international experience, and also there are very few such community companies, but there are companies of that sort in Lviv and in Zhovkva out of 73 communities. And also, when they attract some significant European projects anticipating payments for project managers, they can have an additional payment. So they have their basic salary according to the budget. If they can attract large projects where they can join a project management job, they will receive that job and payment. So that would be a stimulus for them to look for qualitative projects, and they submit quite a number of requests. Not always those submissions are successful, but it's quite a high percentage of success, and I can see in my eyes that those community-owned companies, the institutes for community development, are effective, and this is the case that you can introduce with yourself. We have 2 individuals, investment branch under the executive unit. They do a grant writing requests. That's it. And Oksana already mentioned that everyone is doing projects, so that's the maximum you can do for attraction. I have another question for you. You mentioned projects, but who wrote your strategy? Your own teams, or was it externally done? Make it effective. I'll start with myself because I said that was part of search project. Jointly with experts, we drafted our strategy, but we owned that project. When experts sit in Kiev remotely and you are under Shahid's attack, and it's difficult to check your priorities, so experts did a main narration and we put what we call the meat on the bones. I've mentioned that our strategy was written and helped by European Council experts, funded by European Council, but they were not from Kiev. They came, visited us. That was a large working group. They came to our community. They stayed with us. We brought people together. We brought activists from different areas, helping with ideas, and then we read that, did a brainstorming, and there were a number of working groups, but yes, there were external experts engaged, and I think that was one of the most qualitative strategies in Ukraine. Before you replied, communities ask how much is that? I think at minimum 50,000 euros. Written during a year time, from the first initial meeting when we met and up to the council endorsement, it took a year. Are there any elements in your strategies to support the family members of the uniformed personnel? I just received a notification that we had 4 more dead, but we live in such a time when there are risks to lives and health. We are a bit of rare community, but still, well, there is such a direction, and we also have such thing as the construction of memorial complex for the heroes. That's part of a heritage, and we announced the architectural competition, and we had architects supplying their bids from all over Ukraine. There were architects from Kiev, and we have winners because we have a historical place. We can't build things on our own. We have to have so many coordination. Ministry of Culture coordinates our constructions. So in terms of the memorial and heritage, that's been reflected, and memorial complex is also part of our strategy. Thank you. And if I may, who developed how much and how long? I don't know whether should we say in front of KSE. It's Unit City. So we did on our own, Poltavska Polytechnica and Kiev Mohyla Business School. Overall cost, I don't know whether they spend this money, 200,000 hryvnia. And it's not us, it's European Council paying salaries to experts and their travel expenses. Our first strategy that finalized quite a large work. Again, that's not a thesis paper. That's a database, that's information. It's a large circle of people engaged from this city, educational doctors, SWOT analysis to do back in 2019. We won grant 400,000 hryvnia for two Ukrainian towns, Bashtanka and Chertkiv, Bashtanka Mykolaiv region. Following the Polish example, we did a strategy. We update it now under the large war, under the new challenges to make it state/regional, and we do it ourselves. Small grant received by German Friedrich Naumann and Alexander Salantai. No secret, so his team is engaged. And it's easy to refresh and update, but to add, Chertkov development strategy has all those basic documents you've seen on the screen, developed under different projects and programs, developed by different experts, very different. And that's the foundation of a strategy. Strategy is not the end, it's the working document, which those who allocate money pay attention to. I didn't believe in it 5 years ago, now I'm confident. They do read and they do ask, and they refer to a page saying it's difficult to find the reference to your strategy, so it means it's important to them. Just a second to add. That's your URC selection, and Ministry of Territorial Community Development announced that competition. There was the box. Do you have a development strategy and link? So that's where international organizations, partners, and the ministry pays attention to.